Alrighty. Hi, everyone. So today we're going to talk about controlling hypertension through lifestyle modifications. Two important questions that we're going to ask ourselves throughout this lesson is why is it important to control our blood pressure and how can we do it through lifestyle interventions? Key points to know about hypertension and why it is important to control. Heart disease, commonly attributed to hypertension, is the leading cause of death in the United States. Hypertension can cause harm to the heart and the kidneys, and it increases the risk of heart disease, heart failure, atrial fibrillation, stroke, dementia, chronic kidney disease, vision loss, and sexual dysfunction. So, a normal blood pressure reading is one that's 120 over 80, but the goal to be considered non hypertensive is a blood pressure reading less than 130 over 80. And remember, hypertension is treatable. How can you manage your blood pressure? Remember to avoid alcohol, cigarettes, recreational drugs, black licorice, some NSAIDs, and the supplement St. John's wort. Limit caffeine and over the counter decongestant use. Try to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Follow a healthy diet like the DASH or Mediterranean diets. And aim to get 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity weekly. The American Heart Association published an article on dietary guidance to improve cardiovascular health. So, we're going to go over some of the tips and things that you can integrate into your lifestyle and diet that will help to lower your blood pressure. Remember to eat plenty of whole fruits and vegetables, not the sugary fruit juices or fruits in like desserts such as an apple pie. Choose foods made with whole grains rather than the refined grains. So choose brown rice, wheat bread over the white bread, white rice, or white pastas. Choose healthy sources of protein, such as plant proteins like legumes and nuts. Try to incorporate 2 servings of fish into your diet per week and make sure that it's not fried. Consume the low fat or fat free dairy products rather than the full fat versions. Try to limit your intake of red meat. Choose lean cuts of meat, such as a pork loin or a chicken breast, and avoid the processed meats, which would be things like bacon, sausage, hot dogs, deli meat, pepperoni, and salami. Use liquid plant oils like olive or avocado oil instead of tropical oils like coconut oil or animal fats like butter. The plant oils are good because they consist of unsaturated fats rather than the unhealthy saturated or trans fats. Avoid processed foods as much as you can, such as the frozen foods or prepackaged snacks like a bag of chips. Minimize the intake of foods and drinks with added sugars like sodas. And if you are adding sugars or sweeteners to your beverages or foods or anything like that, try to use the low energy sweetener substitutes like Splenda or Sweet and Low. Choose and prepare your foods with limited amounts of salt. So be mindful of the sodium content on prepackaged foods. And it's great to look at the food labels on prepackaged foods to look at the sodium content and daily percentage. Also, limit your alcohol intake. So the DASH diet, which is the Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension diet, has been proven to cause significant reductions of systolic and diastolic blood pressure. The National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute has a webpage that explains what the DASH diet is, and it incorporates a lot of the things that were mentioned in the American Heart Association article. And it also provides a link to some DASH-friendly recipes, which is great for individuals who are beginning their health journey, beginning to eat healthy, but they really aren't sure what to cook, what ingredients they need to incorporate. So we're going to take a look at that web page. Alrighty. So here is that web page that talks about the DASH diet. It reminds us to make sure that we're consuming vegetables, fruit, and whole grains, include fat-free or low-fat dairy products, fish, poultry, beans, nuts, vegetable oils. Limit the foods high in saturated fats like fatty meats and full-fat dairy products, and also limit the sugar-sweetened beverages and sweets. So on the right here, there is a graphic just kind of reminding you what you should be consuming and what you should be limiting your intake on. And then over here on the left, it provides some recommendations on each food group and what your daily serving should look like for a 2,000 calorie day diet. So regarding grains, you should be getting 6 to 8 daily serving. Meats, poultry, and fish, 6 or less. Vegetables and fruits, 4 to 5 per day. Low fat or fat-free dairy products, fats and oils, 2 to 3 servings per day. And then the last one, the sodium, that one's an important one to remember. You should be limiting it to 2,300 milligrams per day. And then weekly servings, your weekly servings of nuts, seeds, dry beans, and peas should be about 4 to 5 per week, and sweets 5 or less per week. When following the DASH diet, it's important to choose foods that are low in saturated and trans fats, rich in potassium, calcium, magnesium, fiber, and protein, and lower in sodium. So you can always come back to reference this webpage if you need a reminder on what your serving should be looking like of each food group. And then we're going to go back up here to the top and click on this link. And this is going to take us to the Dash Friendly Diet recipe page, which is great to reference back to develop like your weekly meal plans. So over here on the left under healthy dinners, it categorizes it by the protein. So beef, poultry, seafood, pork, pasta, vegetarian. So let's click on the beef for main dish, and it gives you a list of several different options that you can look at and build your meals off of. And when you click on each recipe, it tells you exactly what you need to purchase, what amounts of things that you need to incorporate, and directions on how to make it. And it also has a food label right here. So it tells you your total fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, sodium, fiber, protein, carbs, and potassium. So back to the PowerPoint. Now we're going to talk about the benefits of exercise. Exercise training results in significant reductions in average blood pressure readings. Tailored exercise programs not only reduce blood pressure, but they've also been proven to be as effective as some antihypertensive medications. So for this patient, that's important because he didn't want to try the medications first. Lifestyle interventions was what he wanted to try. We'll pick back up in 6 months, recheck the blood pressure, and see if that improved his blood pressure readings. The American Heart Association provides recommendations on physical activity for adults, so we're going to go over some of those recommendations. Adults should participate in 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorous activity weekly. So, what's the difference between moderate versus vigorous activity? Moderate activity can include brisk walking, water aerobics, dancing, gardening, or biking less than 10 miles per hour, while vigorous activity will include things like uphill hiking, running, swimming laps, heavy yard work, or cycling more than 10 miles per hour and jumping rope. Try to incorporate muscle strengthening activities like resistance or weight training 2 days per week, which would be easier for this patient. That's something that you can do in your home with limited space. Just get a couple pairs of dumbbells or like wrist or ankle weights. And remember that any amount of movement is better than none. Try breaking the activity up throughout the day. If you work in an office, try and get up when you have a break and take a couple laps around the hallway or go up and down the stairs a few times. And remember, you can increase the amount and intensity of the activity gradually over time. The American Heart Association has created an interactive self-guided PowerPoint lesson on blood pressure management that does a great job at recapping all of the things that we discussed today. And you'll have access to this PowerPoint to reference, but you can also go to the link at any point to review this PowerPoint as well. So let's take a look at the PowerPoint from the AHA. And like I said, a lot of this stuff will sound familiar. It's a great review. So, in the beginning, it reminds individuals that more than half of the people in the United States do not know that heart disease is the leading cause of death and that it kills more people than any other cause, even that of cancer. This slide just reminds you of the cardiovascular, kidney, and metabolic influences that hypertension can have on the body. Hypertension is common. Nearly half of American adults have high blood pressure, and many don't even know that they have it. And that is why it is called the silent killer, because oftentimes there's no symptoms, which makes it even more important for you to go to your annual checkups and get your blood pressure checked. We went over this already. Why does what does high blood pressure put you at risk for? So things like heart disease, heart failure, AFib, stroke, dementia, kidney disease, vision loss, and sexual dysfunction. What is blood pressure? Blood pressure is the force that pumps against your vessel walls. This just kind of explains the difference between systolic and diastolic blood pressure. The top number, which is the systolic, is how much pressure is pushing against the artery walls when your heart's beating. And the bottom number, or the diastolic blood pressure, is the pressure against the arteries while your heart's resting. Risk factors, some of them you can control and some of them you cannot. Some of the things that you can't control are family history, race or ethnicity. Non-Hispanic Black adults are at a higher risk. Age, it increases with age. Sex, men are at a higher risk. Chronic kidney disease and obstructive sleep apnea. But the things that you can control are the things that we discussed, such as diet and lifestyle modifications. Stop the smoking, alcohol, NSAIDs, supplements like St. John's wort, caffeine, and manage other conditions such as diabetes, overweight and obesity, high cholesterol, diet, and activity. This is a great image to look at, just telling you what normal blood pressure readings are, and it kind of categorizes them based on level. So you know normal blood pressure is less than 120 over 80. Stage 1 hypertension starts at 130 over 80. So we want it to be less than that number. When should you call your provider? A blood pressure higher than 180 over 120 is an emergency, and you do need to call your healthcare provider. This just kind of gives some information on signs of high blood pressure. Some people may be asymptomatic, but things that you can look for include chest pain, shortness of breath, back pain, numbness, weakness, change in vision, and difficulty speaking. If those things happen, you do need to call 911. How should you be taking your blood pressure at home? So, when doing home blood pressure monitoring, usually it's to make sure that your blood pressure readings in the office were due to white coat syndrome and your blood pressure readings at home are truly under control and less than that 130 over 80. So, it's important that those readings are accurate because our care as providers is going to be based on that number. So 30 minutes before you take your blood pressure, it's important to not smoke, exercise, drink caffeine or alcohol. To ensure accurate measurements, make sure you rest for at least 5 minutes. Don't talk. Rest your arm comfortably on a flat surface at heart level. Sit upright with back straight and legs uncrossed. Use a validated device and make sure the cuff is above the bend of your elbow to prevent any extra pressure or inaccurate readings. Signs of hypotension. Blood pressure challenges for men, sexual dysfunction can be a big concern. So managing your blood pressure can help to manage other problems like these. This is just a reminder that high blood pressure is a main reason that people develop heart disease and a reminder that it can be treated, whether it's through healthy lifestyle choices or medication, both are options. And remember, the goal is to keep a pressure less than 130 over 80. This is just a reminder, blood pressure, blood lipid levels, body weight, and blood sugar all kind of coincide and can be managed with similar interventions. Goal blood pressure, 120 over 80 is normal. Manage your blood lipid levels. The goal BMI, body mass index, is one less than 25. So diet and lifestyle interventions can help to maintain a normal, healthy weight. And as far as blood sugar, more so for diagnosed diabetics or on routine lab work, checking your hemoglobin A1C, that should be less than 5.7. Remember, limit the smoking, vaping, make sure you're getting enough sleep, 7 to 9 hours per night, healthy diet like DASH or Mediterranean, like we mentioned previously, and 150 minutes of physical activity weekly. This just kind of talks about the risks of smoking, tobacco, and nicotine. Reminder about sleep. This image is great, a great reference to understand like what the portions of your plate should look like. So half of your plate per meal should consist of veggies and fruits. 1/4 of the plate should be whole grains like brown rice, and another fourth of the plate should be things such as protein like beans and skinless chicken or fish. And big reminder, reduce the salt that you eat. So why does salt influence blood pressure and hypertension so much? When you eat the sodium, your body holds on to extra water to try and balance it out. This extra fluid in the body adds fluid to the vessels, which in turn increases the blood pressure and makes your heart work harder. This is a review of the difference between moderate and vigorous activity, and that the goal is 150 minutes of moderate or 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity weekly. So start small, get your blood pressure checked first of all, and try and just take a walk after dinner. Set a bedtime alarm to make sure you're going to bed on time. Add a serving of veggies to one meal and set goals for yourself to gradually get to the point where every meal is healthy or you're exercising every day. And that concludes our little lesson on diet and lifestyle modifications, such as exercise that you can incorporate into your daily routine to naturally improve your blood pressure. Thanks for listening.